Joe, can you hear me?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
You muted me, and since you have mods, I can't. And you on broadcast, or I was on broadcast when I entered in.
Yeah, my mistake. I just
no problem. These things that's what happens.
Right.
You got to figure out all the bells and whistles, and then do it a few times before it becomes natural. You should have on the side something called a control room, and then you should have something called cameraman. It should look like a camera and then sort of like a mixer. Those are the two main things you want to pay attention to when you.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of them. So, like for instance, the default is that you hide. I can't remember which one's the default, but you can hide people when they come in, so that if you don't know them, particularly if you post a live link, you want to make sure that you have to be on guard for people that would porn bomb you or do something irresponsible.
Yeah. That's I selected that right off the beginning, right off the bat, just because I figured it might be problematic if like anyone and everyone could just pop in and start doing whatever. But
right, and then you know how to eject somebody.
I think so. Anyway, you just kind of you go to the arrow on the
and then you can hide or eject them, and then that doesn't mean that they're blocked from you, but they're blocked from this hangout for the life of this hangout.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad somebody else is starting to do hangouts. I encourage that, and the conversation thing. That's a good idea.
Oh, the conversational adventure thing or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying it's not really defined, but you threw a couple ideas up: justification, psychedelics, guns, mindfulness, meditation.
Yeah.
Solve third world hunger. Figure out the theory of everything, and call it a day.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just I like talking about like certain things, but I mean I try to stay open to new topics or ideas. So
Good. Well, what is your philosophy of life? I mean, you're kind of new here, so.
I guess well, as far as religion goes, I guess I would say that I was raised Catholic, baptized and raised Catholic, but I guess I think the way I kind of view it is I think the more that my brain and my mind and stuff, the more I kind of matured and grew more into adulthood is like the more I started to kind of question the things that they were like telling me or like claiming to know and stuff. So then I don't know, and then I kind of started to more look into it myself and really put two and two together. But like I guess like in high school, it was at like towards the tail end of high school, I was like kind of in a point where like I still believed in God, but evolution was so like obviously true to me that I was like I mean obviously I can't just say that evolution isn't true. I mean, if you really look at what's going on, it's pretty apparent. But then at that point I was like, well, maybe God started evolution, right? Like he kind of put everything in motion. But I mean, then that was passable for me for a little while, but then I kind of decided that I had to ignore even more things to accept that could be true. Even more things that Christianity was claiming in order for that to be the case. So I just then past that, I started to just basically just kind of question it a little more, and then I looked into other people's views, and now I'm basically I just don't there's no I guess there's no objective evidence that anything of that Catholic worldview, that there's just nothing that they're claiming to be true that I could really honestly say that I think is true. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So have you thought of maybe it's an alternative thing that isn't Catholic based, or is it just not a thing at all? Or, in other words, there seems to
no,
be a wide variety of people that are saying, no, 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 it's not Catholicism, it's this. No, 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 it's not that, it's this. And so,
okay, I see. So I didn't really define. Okay, I think I get what you're trying to clarify. I don't think that there is any like one God or any multiple gods or any sort of deity like that. Really, I just haven't
I know
seen
what you don't think.
anything.
What do you think?
What?
You just
Like what do I think is in place of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, and look, if you don't know and you say, well, this is my best guess or whatever, I mean, you could qualify it however you want. I'm curious what your perspective is.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm not convinced that there's any sort of I'm omniscient being. And then once I kind of decided that for myself, I guess I just started to look more into uh, I guess at that point I looked more into evolution and like more into where we came from, after I kind of felt like I had a decent understanding of that, then I guess I just decided for myself that although the sun probably won't expire or blow up, and in my lifetime anyway, and although humanity will at least hopefully continue past my lifetime, I guess I really just don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm more just open to the experience than anything really.
That sounds reasonable to me.
It's pretty. I don't know. I don't mean to be evasive. I guess I just really haven't come to a very well defined position on this yet. So
Well, you'll get lots of, if you're thirsty for what the options are, there'll be a lot of people that will share with you here. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Well, look, there are some people that are going to try to rope you back into Catholicism or whatever. I don't know. I'm saying that if you want to find out what the alternatives are to a theistic position, there are lots of people that will share that kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to identify myself with like a specific labeled position, I would definitely say that I'm atheist. But I don't. I guess the reason that I'm reluctant to say that is because I just don't find labels really to be very helpful in general. So I try to avoid using them. But
Yeah. If I had to peg mine, I'd have to say agnostic. I really don't know, but I do know that it seems to me like the question of whether or not there's a God is something beyond the horizon of what we can see directly. But there are a lot of things we can see directly that need to be addressed. We're ignoring in an attempt to answer something that we can't address. And I think that energy is wasted because we're neglecting what we can do in lieu of what we can't. So it's kind of like I use the expression trying to decide what sprinkles to put on the cupcake while the kitchen's on fire.
Okay, so you're kind of saying that just because our current understanding of things right now can't, you know, determine whether or not there is, a God or what have you in the spiritual realm of things like that, I guess, or just because we can't determine that right now doesn't necessarily mean that we won't ever be able to determine it. You're just saying that our current knowledge of things doesn't allow us to see that.
That's the way it appears to me. I mean, there are people that walk around with certainty, but here's the thing I think we can be certain of. Something exists, and that something is consciousness. We do know that. You and I are here, or maybe you're here and I'm a projection. But in either case, consciousness exists. And
Okay.
beyond that, so everything is sort of provisional. So you could be deluded to think you're in a body in a cosmos on an earth and all of that, and that there are other people and whatever. We don't know beyond consciousness. But what I do think is you can see some near-term things. So based on the fact that biologically speaking, you need to be nourished with a certain kind of foods and fluids and whatnot, and you depend on a social structure to live, that tells you something. If we cultivate good relationships with each other that are fruitful, they actually produce things that nourish us, then then we can live sustainably within a system and grow and flourish to the point that the environment will contain us. And so those are the things you can know more closely and more surely that we are neglecting in lieu of arguing over whether or not some body waved the magic wordy wand and brought the cosmos into existence and cares about whether or not and what you do with your genitals. So it just seems to me to be an unimportant question. And the important questions are, what can we do here and now based on what we can more reasonably and more certainly know?
Okay. Like that we should maybe more focus in the present moment and what's going on Earth right now with humanity as a whole
First,
instead of.
first, yeah, not only humanity but Earth, because humanity. If humanity killed off all the other creatures, humanity would be in a world of crap.
Oh
We
yeah.
interdependent biological body that goes well beyond human DNA, and so we have to think about that.
Okay. Yeah, I could see some substance to that for sure.
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you, or I can.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think we should focus more on the mentality of humanity rather than just humanity on itself. The the minds of the groups seem more of a threat than just the population, you know?
So maybe more of like a you're saying that like maybe the group think could be more harmful than like what individual
Yes.
people are willing to do.
Yes, it's been witnessed all over social media and all that.
Okay. Yeah. How would we maybe address that though? Like if like how do you I guess how do you try and do something about that?
Well, we can just locate the fallacies on those.
Okay, so like maybe point out to people
Yes.
why they're like why like a bandwagon sort of thing is not helpful.
Yes.
Do you think
Okay.
that would work? I mean, in other words, do you think that people govern themselves by logic and reason, or do they govern themselves by whatever their particular social in-group believes or doesn't believe? It seems to me like that's a more reasonable axiom, because I've seen people defend ideas that are completely opposed to each other depending on which group they're in. And I think that my guess would be that a lot of people are sincere about their beliefs and their statements, even though they completely conflict, and a lot of them aren't even tied very well to reality. So ultimately, I think there's something else going on besides logic and reason as the thing that persuades us. I think what persuades us is our emotional connection to the group. So we say things that bind ourselves to the group, and we say things that expel the out group more frequently. So
So like a hive mind then?
it appears, well, we're social creatures, I think, is the way to, is the way to
Agreed.
look at that. And that kind of hijacks our thinking.
If I understand what you're trying to point out here correctly, Joe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're trying to point out is that even though uh, uh, you know rational thinking and logic are good and helpful. I think what you're trying to point out is that the simple fact is that the majority of humanity doesn't really operate with those two things as like their key, guidance system. Really, they don't.
Right, even a logical and rational person, a scientist, can lose their temper and just do some irrational and completely, out of character thing. Or some disease could infect them, or some confluence of whatever and damage and so forth, or an environmental circumstance could happen to just send somebody off the edge. Human beings have a fairly tenuous hold on logic and reason as the thing that steers their ship, is my point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that if I have fishing line and you have fishing hooks, if we built a trust relationship and we shared with each other, we could both go fishing? But if we never built a trust relationship with each other, and you never figured out how to make rope and I never figured out how to make hooks, we would neither one of us would be able to go fishing that way, right?
Right.
That's a fair statement.
Oh, okay. So you're saying even if we have the ability to reason and to think things out pretty seriously in that way, without the social structure that people have, none of that would really be of any use to anyone anyway.
Well, not only that, but we do have many opportunities like that. So, for instance, the way I see it is, any kid on planet Earth today that is not fed well and nourished to their full potential, so that they can pay back that dividend, enjoyably so, throughout their adult life of contributing something of value to the whole community of life on Earth. Like maybe we'd have a Jonas Salk or an Einstein or whatever, but instead they're living beneath the threshold of their potential, starving to death in some either relationship cesspool, like a parasitic, predatory inner city environment, or some desert environment where getting tapped by malaria and malnourishment is the primary thing, as well as violence and all of that. So those kids do not reach their full potential, and so they can't give back. It doesn't take a whole lot to recognize that that is a problem that is within our grasp to make improvements on. And yet we live in a world where children today starve for those kinds of things, not because we can't, which used to be the case, but because we don't. And so that tells me there's something pathological going on in our makeup, that maybe we have scars from our own past that need to be healed, so that we recognize where our bread is buttered and we could go after it. And I don't think we're doing that. So, to assume that we're logical creatures that respond to reason is not reasonable, at least at this point. But I think we need to have a clear vision for where our opportunity is, so that we begin recognizing and moving in that direction.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with what you're saying about how a lot of the world's population really isn't reaching their full potential, and I think that some of what you're saying there has to do with
It
you
never
know
got its way in the first place.
what did. or what didn't?
Yeah, like humanity reaching its full potential.
Well, right, but I mean, isn't that kind of what the whole, I guess if you wanted to call it the struggle of humanity, isn't that kind of what we as humans have been trying to do since the beginning of our existence, is like reach our full potential?
Well, yeah, but there's always like a holdback. I mean, we've always been held back on it.
Been held back, yes, and but also held ourselves back. I think that somebody that grows up in an environment where there's parasitic and predatory behaviors in their social climate have a tendency to echo that throughout their life because they think that's what reality looks like. So once the fire gets started, it kind of feeds itself. But and that happens culturally too. So we've had to do awful things to get through the ice age or the famine and whatnot, or the disease, and wondered why reality is so cruel and whatnot. And so we can develop this sort of idea that if we don't go out there and just take, then ultimately we won't have anything, and then we'll just so ever, dog eat dog, and all of that kind of stuff can weave itself into people and cultures, and to varying degrees of strength depending on what kind of episodes we went through individually and collectively. That's true. But it is also true that everything that you have, like the computer you're looking at, the streets that you ride on, the everything that you do is in terms of like driving an automobile or anything like that, is built on cooperation, not competition. It's not built on seizure and grabbing and controlling things. It's built on sharing things. In fact, every word you learned, unless you made a couple up yourself, it was shared with you, and now you use that to communicate with other people. It's a vast source of wealth that we just
Agreed.
ride on and take advantage of. Well, that's where our bread is buttered, and the more that we recognize that we need, that is what bears fruit. Like you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in a seed, and that's the way it really works. Mind you, you have to do some horrible things to get through a terrible situation, but that shouldn't be how you begin to operate all the time. Otherwise, you'll be the author of your own poverty. So I'm just saying, there's some wiggle room there, and we can move ourselves in a better direction, particularly if we have a good vision for what actually works. And what works is when we have each other's backs instead of we're at each other's backs.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that one of the bigger problems in the world right now, at least in a broad sense, is just the lack of I guess it kind of like what you were saying, how the entire world seems to be in competition with each other instead of kind of coming to terms with the fact that we're all human beings, and that we all, mentally and biologically and all that stuff, we all desire the same basic needs. So I guess I don't see why we couldn't try and come together more as a global community and help everybody.
Yeah, I want us to see the value of that. So if somebody wants to be selfish, they got to get better at being selfish and know that they need to cultivate wealth in the community so that they live in the context of that wealthy community. That's where our bread is buttered. So if you know, for instance, if you applied that same principle. Okay, so your heart has to do something of nourishing value in the context of the community of organs it lives in, as does all the other organs. That's the way we're built. That's the signature in the structure. So ultimately, this is the recipe for success. And like I said, I can understand that there are times when you have to do awful things to get through a circumstance. But if you want to have a sustainable system as complex as ours, realize its full potential, it's built on and predicated on mutually beneficial relationships and not parasitic and predatory ones. In fact, the parasites and the predators depend on the fruitful behaviors, but not vice versa.
Yeah, so the parasitic or predatory relationships and stuff depend on the fact that other people are trying to have positive relationships, and that you're saying that that's kind of, they almost need that in order to function.
Well, not almost. They do need it. Yeah, they can't do without it. A parasite and a predator depends on someone else generating the wealth that they're going to suckle from.
Okay. Yeah. So how would we maybe well, I guess I don't know. I kind of lost where I was going with that train of thought, I guess, guys.
Well, I'm just saying, okay, so what I'm saying is that biologically speaking, yes, there is a full range of kinds of behaviors, and all of them are sort of, relevant to their particular scenario. But where wealth comes, where fruitful behaviors come from, is when there's a sharing. When back to the fish hooks and lines, and maybe there's probably a better example. I don't know what it is, but
okay.
You mean a compromise?
No, a sharing. In other words, in nature, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals more than 2. So when the right kind of when a fruitful kind of sharing happens. So if you get seeds and you plant seeds, you're going to have even more seeds. There's a multiplication thing going on there, not just a simple linear transfer, right? And that same thing is the way our social systems are built. If we didn't have people that shared books and knowledge, if we didn't know people like Newton and Einstein that shared their information, and we didn't take it and put it to task, we wouldn't have bridges and roads and a lot of medicine and all of that. So all the people that contributed and shared there, we're riding on that wave of people who have shared. We're not, and that's what brings us forward. And if you look at it evolutionarily speaking, if there is a creature that does not have the capacity to share value, in other words, to how to operate sustainably in the context of the environment, it goes extinct. That's what happens.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the message that's written right into the structure of biology. It's a pretty clear one.
So how might we try and kind of bring that to light? I mean, how would you even bring that up, I guess, in a broader social context?
That's a really good question. Can I ask you that question?
Well, see, that's I mean, I really, that's something that I really wish that I knew the answer to, because if I knew the answer to that, then maybe maybe I could do something a little more productive and helpful for everybody with my life right now. But I don't know. I guess it was more just seeing if you had any ideas on that, because I sure don't.
I do have ideas, but I'm quite limited as a singular individual. I do know that what I do to bring it to bear is that I'm obviously a little bit polished at the conversation because of the way it flows off my tongue. I didn't just think of this on the fly. I've been thinking about it for a while. And so I do try to craft the message and then pass it, share it, so that it, the idea is fruitful. So if you recognize there's value in what I was saying, and that it's a message, like I'm a messenger, not the message. The message is written in, like I was just pointing to plain things everybody can see. The way the human body is structured, the way where wealth comes from, and all of that. So based on that, if you were to start a business and you recognize that having a mutual stake in your customers' success, like your success is a byproduct of filling a need, and your relationships are, the best kind of intimate relationships are when you have each other's backs, when you take care of each other as best you can.
Yeah, like a loving, supporting relationship, like one that's really psychologically healthy for people.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens in the context of a very healthy relationship. The ones that are not are, like, for instance, if an enabler was brought up by some narcissist, then they go around thinking that the world looks like I need to go please the unpleasable tyrant. I need to pick the most impossible situation and throw myself into it until I'm bloody and beat onto the floor in the hopes that I would somehow gain the love of the unpleasable tyrant, and which won't happen. And then I will end up in a failed, frustrated mess. And then the tyrant, the person that is malignantly taking without giving back, is also dissatisfied and alienated because they really don't know the balance of that nourishing intimacy either. So both of them are missing the bullseye at different ends of the target, but still missing the bullseye. So all that to say, those kind of wounds need healed in our individual lives, in our community lives, the way businesses treat each other, the way governments think of people. Our tribe should be Earth and needs to be Earth.
Yeah. So kind of what you were saying about like the like a healthy relationship with somebody, you could almost apply the exact same type of the exact same circumstances and things that make a personal relationship healthy for the people involved. You're almost saying that you should apply that to all relationships or things like business, pretty much anything that would interact with other humans.
Yeah, I'm saying mutually beneficial relationships, and I'm not saying just leave yourself open to be taken by a parasite or a predator. There are.
No.
I'm not trying to say the world isn't what it is, but yeah, I am saying that is the thing, that's the goal. That's where you want to cultivate it. You don't want customers that just want to use you, and for instance, in a business, you don't want customers that are just going to use you and actually extract more value from the company without giving as much back. That's not good, and it also isn't good to use your customers as a take base. So, like for instance, you probably have a cell phone carrier. Let's just assume you do. You have a cell phone carrier. There are people that feel like they have to look out for their phone companies or their cable companies or whatever, because they're just going to gouge as much as they possibly can, give as little as they can, and get as much as they can. And that kind of thing is an insidious communication of dog eat dog that has all sorts of splash damage implications culturally. When we have in the U.S., where you have a political system where you can't get a seat at the government table unless you take private money, and then your job is to make decisions in the public interest. Those kind of things are what starts creeping in disease-wise, where you can't even make decent decisions in the interest of people, and so the parasites and the predators start to win. And when somebody wins the Monopoly game, it's over. That's stupid. We have to look out for each other. This is my point, and that you can also see a model for health and sickness. So the whole spectrum becomes laid bare when you begin to see how the message that's clearly and simply conveyed right through nature.
Yeah. So more rather than like stressing specific things in like a functional personal relationship, you were more trying to get at like what you said earlier, which I guess would already almost answer the question, but more just mutually beneficial relationships in general
are the source of wealth. Yeah, when you recognize that you're an organ in a larger body, that you are actually a dung beetle for the plants, and you perform your job of taking in their waste product and converting it back to something they can use, and then they do that for you, that there's a reciprocal thing. Now everybody gets to live, but if we were to stop doing that or throw it out of balance really bad, then everybody is harmed. We're swimming in the same pond. That's the message that's coming through, and that's a good message if we hear it and then begin to apply it in some practical ways. So if your sphere of influence is you're a business owner, or you're an employee, or you're in a relationship, or whatever the case may be, or if you're driving down the road and you can just behave in ways that communicate that I got your back, I'm doing the best I can to have your back, with all the little things that you do, then that's your power. So and whatever, however strong that muscle is that you have to influence the relationship dynamics that go on in the world toward that end, that's your contribution.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that yeah, I think that that's certainly true. But I think what I used to struggle with this, but in recent I don't know, maybe the last couple of years, I think I've drawn a pretty clear line. But like the line between being um, I guess mutually beneficial, like having someone's back when they actually deserve it, and giving someone respect when they actually deserve it, versus having someone's back when there's no reciprocation, or giving someone respect when they don't respect you. I think when I was younger, I used to struggle with where the line between that and a healthier relationship was. But yeah, that's interesting.
Toonar, are you still there?
Yeah,
I don't know if, I mean, is what I'm saying making sense, or is it, yeah,
kind of.
tree hugging bullshit?
It sounds like a lot of philosophy talk. It's not really my specialty, but I would like to get more into it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't use, like, philosophy talk to me is when you say, well, the ontological argument and the epistemological, you're
Well, it sounded more like a simplified version of it.
oh yeah, I mean, it obviously is philosophy. It's a point of view, yeah, but it's
Yes.
not. Yeah, I try not to make it all, the linguistic headwinds that you have to go through to understand some of that other philosophy stuff.
Yeah,
That's a pretty tall order.
yeah, I feel you. So um, you know what? I'm gonna take like a 2 or 3 minute break here, real quick. I will be right back.
Hi.
All right.
So what lights you up, Tuner?
What?
What's your, like, interest in, Ben? What do you like to do?
Interest in what?
I have no idea. I was asking an open-ended question. Like, you might like some people are gamers, some people are um, skiers or whatever.
I draw.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you like to draw?
Stuff. I draw. I draw a lot. Even made this avatar.
Nice, nice. I wouldn't have thought that. So you got some skills.
Yeah.
Good. You ever thought of, like, making a comic strip, or I mean, look, I don't know if I'm talking out my ass. I'm just trying. I'm fishing here.
Oh. Oh man, that takes me a while back. I remember doing comic strips. I remember doing comic strips about over a few years ago, but I'm not sure if I can get back to doing them.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
What's preventing you?
I don't know. I just wasn't that into it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I write because I've tried to develop the skill to be able to craft an idea to make it transmittable. So that's what I focus on. Communication.
Communication's not for me.
No. Well, visual arts is a communication. Look, that the comic you got going on there, your avatar, that says something.
It really does.
Yeah, to me it says, seriously? Did I hit it? Seriously?
Yes, seriously.
Yeah, that's what the thought bubble coming out of the head looks like it should be saying. You just did that. Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been done over a while ago. Can't stop it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. So do you have a portfolio or website or anything?
Uh, Portfolio. Wow. I just draw a notebook.
Really?
Yeah. All the hard time and effort just put on just papers with lines and stuff. I don't use actual just blank white paper.
Okay.
I did have it at one point, but I think I
So you didn't have a Wacom pen and all that you can just draw right straight into the computer?
no, I don't have that type of stuff.
Is there? Do you feel like the learning curve would be too heavy for that, or do you feel like you're just not interested in that way? You like the white paper thing?
Well, no, it's just I don't have the money for that type of digital art.
Okay. Okay. Well, if this picture's any indication, that you got skill that needs to get out. That needs to get planted in some way that can be developed. Look, if you got it, I don't know.
I do.
So, well, looks like it to me. Seriously, and I don't mean seriously. So, yeah. I, how much do you think it costs for a Wacom pen these days?
Over 300,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe at least over 1 to 3.
Yes.
Okay.
For your skill set, you need a decent one, I would think.
A Wacom.
I've heard them say Wacom, but the manufacturers say that. I used to think it was Wacom and
Wacom.
Wacom. Look. To this pen. Look at this here.
You need a website.
Oops.
Whoa.
Yeah, so see, I just seen a kid, he said Wacom. But I remember,
Yeah, Wacom.
yeah, but I remember going to the website itself to their tutorials, and they call it something like Wacom.
Well, the name pronunciation is really kind of off.
Yeah, they're tomatoes. Who cares? What we know what we're talking about anyhow, so it's not really. I mean, I'm the stickler a little bit, but I always say it right. But when it comes right down to it, doesn't matter as long as you understand each other.
Uh huh.
Yeah. So they got some good ones out there though.
They do.
Yeah, and if you put together, you know, a portfolio and that, stick your stuff out there. You looks like you got some game. You could. There are people that pay for this. I mean, I don't know what you're doing now, but if that's your passion, and you can turn it in, you can invest in yourself to turn your passion into something that helps you make a living. I think that's a pretty cool thing. Not that you have to, but if you can do something you want to do instead of something you have to do, that sounds like a better proposition to me.
To be fair, I was already doing something what I kind of wanted to do.
Oh well, no need to change that. Good.
I just wanted to do more.
Okay.
So, would you were you guys in the middle of something, or would you mind if I bring up a kind of question that I was pondering?
I'm good with that.
What's the question?
All right. Well, I was just sort of thinking that I haven't really been like around, obviously, G plus, the Hangouts for very long, but something that I've kind of noticed is that sometimes when people are in dialogue with one another, or when people are talking to each other, it seems like sometimes we people sort of hit like a wall in the dialogue where it just seems to me like sometimes nothing like there doesn't seem to be a lot of progress being made, but people sort of keep they don't just like move on past the issue, you know what I mean? Like
I can possibly see what you mean.
it's not like all the time or anything. I'm not, I'm just saying that like
It's not very constant.
yeah, but like every once in a while. What do you guys think that for the most part it's pretty reasonable?
I mean,
What
it
you
could
said?
be.
What?
Do you mean like? Do you think it's what you just said is an accurate description of the way things go?
No, no. I just mean like sort of in reference to the conversation that I was having with Matt on Sunday night. I'm not gonna like specifically like say anything or really bring a lot up, but like that sort of thing where like we kind of kept talking about the same issue for like an hour and a half or like 2 hours, and we couldn't really see. And I didn't really notice this at the time, but then in hindsight, we couldn't really seem to get anywhere. Is that and but people kept talking about the same thing. Is that like
Matt, who?
oh Matt Bell, rational theist?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that I don't know if you did. I don't know if you guys saw what was going on, but it was.
Had to see. That's what his water. That's what his. That's just his routine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then it may just be like certain people and the approach that they take rather than.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
If I made a really harsh, I don't know whether, but or brutally honest assessment of some of the things I see going on without being PC about it, I would say that there's a troll crowd that do ridiculous things, and then there's hordes of people who feed on troll milk. So they'll go rushing after the people that they think are stupid, get close enough to prompt and poke their stupidity, and then fan themselves with this, offense and shock that they have witnessed the stupid thing, and then they'll all talk to each other about how stupid it was. So there's sort of this economy of let's rally around the village idiot and then make fun of him, and that's how we'll sort of bind together in our little social group. And so there's that crowd. Then there's the great debate crowd. They call it that. I like to think of it more like the mediocre brouhaha crowd. But they go back and forth over the same old ground, just like you had described, except it's not for hours. It's for days and weeks and months and years.
Wow, that's
like where the okay. All right, I can see what you're saying. How it's
that really says a
because
lot.
I guess my position right now is I just want to hear what people have to say about a lot of things that I haven't really discussed with people a lot. You know, like in a direct sense, like people around me right now. Like
Well, since you brought this up, I want to hear both of your opinions on troll bait.
Help me understand what you mean by troll bait.
There are some people that I know who are complete who are, act like complete idiots on the internet, and then and then there are lots of trolls that come in and feed from their stupidity just automatically. So it kind of works like bait.
The lulz cow people, where they're going out and looking for the udders to milk.
Yeah, yeah, like that. However you want to describe it. But
Mm-hmm.
in a way it's like troll bait.
Yeah, no, that's a good way. It's a good term. So, what do I think of it?
Yeah,
I think it's a waste of energy.
you sure?
Yeah, well, I do, because I think we have better things to do than that. I also think that if the only thing somebody has to offer, if they have to fan themselves by feeling superior, so let's say that the person that's going out doing the trolling, they're presenting themselves as an idiot just for the laughs and the yucks, and the only thing that they can do is go into a room and rub troll feces all over the walls so that they can see people react to it, and that's the only kind of way that they can feed any kind of significance in their life, by shitting themselves and in the elevator, in the smell elevator, and having it all over.
But the troll bait itself is also is also the idiot in this, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, they're even more diluted. The troll is not diluted. The troll milk lappers are. Yeah, I get that. But I'm just talking about taking up the troll first. If a person, the only thing they can do is like sneak into crowded elevators, poop themselves, and rub it on the walls just to watch everybody squeal, that's a pretty miserable life. It's nothing constructive. Whatever they have done after their haha will burn out and go away as insignificant dust. They will have done nothing constructive when they look back on their lives, and all, at least from my perspective. And then the people who are rushing in to watch the stupid and react to it and all of that have also an issue from my perspective, where their own lives would be better spent, instead of reacting to trolls, doing something constructive. So I would have the same advice for both wings of the party.
Yeah,
Find something constructive to do.
but yeah, it's a good point on that. But also the troll bait itself also makes money on that from what I've witnessed.
Yes.
well, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm not. I don't spend a lot of time on the internet in general, so I guess I'm not entirely sure.
No, don't worry about it.
But like, I don't know. I guess it just, from what you guys are saying, it doesn't really. To me, I guess it it just doesn't really sound like a constructive thing to do, I guess, is that about all I have to say. But
Yeah, it's all I had to say too. I wish I would have been as brief as you. I should let you go first.
no, it's all right, man. It's conversational adventures, you know, like we're just but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Um um so what I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about?
What did you mean by justification?
Well, I guess how I have thought about it in a basic sense is that like some people require justification to like to have a certain belief or like to believe something or to take something as true or to think like a certain position in an argument is clearly the one that's true versus like somebody just saying something that's like made up or something, you know what I mean? I think some people in general require a justified like a real solid reason for believing something one way or another, and
Right.
some people just don't. So I just don't. To me, it seems like I don't think it's something like someone's smart or dumb or intelligent or not intelligent. I guess I just think it's like it it seems to me like it's a pretty large factor in like how a person's like beliefs and worldviews would be formed, like because Christianity, for example, to me has no I don't see any like solid uh, empirical, like an actual justified reason to believe most of or anything really of what they're claiming, and then some people will just like the story and like the social environment that it creates, and they maybe don't pay attention so much to what the claim itself is, but maybe they pay more attention to things that happen because they accepted that claim.
They only pay attention to the outcome, but not the source.
Yeah, like maybe they pay. I guess like in general, I would say that for sure they just don't pay attention to the claim itself. Like that's kind of the difference. Like because some people would pay attention to what exactly is being claimed, and then they would look for a reason to see that as true. But then some people would just hear someone claim something, and they would go, like, all right, or oh, okay, or oh, that's a like a famous person or something that just said that, and then they just accept that as true without really looking into it any further. I guess that's more the distinction I was trying to make.
Yeah, there's that. There's also a third, and probably more, but a third major portion of it is what they call pluralistic ignorance, where, well, I don't really believe it, but I think everybody else does, and they're my pals, so I'm just going to go along with it. And there's a lot of other people in the group that also do that, and yet they don't know each other because they never vocalize their doubts to each other. And it kind of something that gets established culturally, like that, a belief system, kind of inherits the next generation, because as kids we attach to whatever we're told, doesn't matter, and sort of buy into it. So we get pulled into traditions without questioning them, because at a certain period in our life we just believe what we're told.
Yeah, it's sort of that same thing where like a certain period in your life you believe what you're told, but then like some people seem to carry that for like a very long time. Like it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. It's just kind of it's just something I think it could actually, because it seems to me like there's a lot of people on both ends of the spectrum, and it seems to me like it's something that may actually influence a lot of decisions that are made or beliefs that are held by people in general. And I don't know. To me, it seems like that sort of justification versus no justification could make a pretty decent impact on the world, depending on influential people that are one way or another.
Yeah, don't you think that the social economy is built on kind of influence and not necessarily fact in a large, not always. In other words, if fact serves, yeah, if fact. But if hooey serves, then hooey.
Oh, for sure. I think that the way things are is much more built on social implications than like fact and reason and like all that kind of thing. For sure. I think at this point the facts are more just representative of what's going on right now rather than something that we built what's going on right now off of. Like the you know what I mean? Like it. Do you understand what I was getting at, or?
Hello?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Almost.
okay. Well, like what Joe was saying is, I think that he was saying was that people and like the social structure of people has influenced the world and the way things are, along with the economy, like he said. But I think just kind of in general too, that the social structure of people has influenced the way things are a lot more than like the hard facts that people would choose to observe or ignore.
Yeah.
Way. Is that kind of what you were getting at, Joe?
Well, I use the term social economy, so I was, the economics of the social economy is influence. So if I can get you to believe something, then, that increases my wealth. Or if I can force you to do something, that's, a source of wealth or whatever. So, in other words, it could be dominance, it could be cultivating compliance or cultivating commitment. But the social economy works on the capacity to get stuff done. And so I think that's the thing that people gravitate after. And some people that are fearful do it by control, and some people that recognize where their bread is buttered try to cultivate something of value. And both of those things go on. One of them is a little predatory and parasitic. The other one's more mutualistic, but it's influence that people go after. And so when you talk about how that translates to ideas, somebody will who wants to dominate will do it by hooey. They'll tell you who to fear and why they are the answer. So and somebody that wants to cultivate commitment is, here's why we should cooperate. That's what they're doing. Or here's what I have of value, and go all through it on that. But it's a social economy. So I wasn't talking about economy in terms of dollars and cents or anything like that. I was the economy of ideas, the economy of influence.
Okay, now that now that you explained it there, I understand much better what you were saying. But yeah. And you think that what you just outlined there, you would say that in general has had much more of a say in how things are than the empirical facts have?
Yes. Well, what I was saying is facts are irrelevant to that. So yeah, if facts work as a means of becoming more influential, people will use facts.
Okay.
But if hooey works more, then they'll use hooey. So it isn't about facts or fact or crap. It's about influence.
Question.
Okay.
What is hooey?
The sky is purple, and those people that don't believe it's purple are evil, and they are your enemy.
So it's like where he's just kind of like making something up in order to draw support or have people rally behind him.
Yeah.
instead of just saying something that actually makes sense, where people would say, "Hey, I get that," and actually like want to rally behind somebody.
Yeah, like I think the Japanese during World War II were told that the Yankees eat babies and whatnot. And in fact, I could have the story wrong because you never know if you're getting the right one after. But I read a story about the fact that this one island that was being taken over, they threw their kids off the cliff because they didn't want them to be eaten by the evil invaders.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and that's hooey. That's junk.
Well, I think that what you're saying about the social economy thing is, I would agree that that actually makes a lot of sense, because if you really look at like our understanding of scientific or like objectively true things like that, even two, 300 years ago, which is a pretty small time window in the how long, with considering how long we've been here, 200-300 years, that really isn't that long. But even that long ago, we didn't really have any really hard data and facts like that to go off of anyway. So how long were we operating without, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just thinking, how long were we operating without our current level of knowledge?
Yeah, and in what areas? So if you take, for instance, Galen was the guy that followed Hippocrates as the major source of, Hippocrates is called the father of medicine. Well, Galen was the one who followed him up. And he was so charismatic and so powerful and influential in the way that he launched into what Hippocratic medicine should be. That he influenced medicine for the next 1,500 years, but because he had one false premise, that of humors being the axiom by which health or disease is formed, the four humors need to be balanced, and so if you got too much of this, then put some leeches on and all that sort of stuff. And his drawings of anatomy were just treated so much as gospel that nobody even questioned it for 1,500 years, until a couple of guys came on board and said, let's check this out, and they began discovering some errors, and then the resistance movement started. No, Galen is sacred, and all this sort of stuff. So the point being that social currency, once it's established, is really hard to shift, because people develop emotional attachments to it. So if you learn an idea and you believe it is true, you will hold on to it as if it's part of your flesh, because it is. We have ideological flesh, and so that can really affect us in harmful ways, but also in helpful ways. So if you learn that I'm okay, you're okay, and that sort of stuff, and that's the way your star works, or if somebody mistreats you, they're wounded and starving, and expressing that they're not criminals that need punished, you're probably going to have a more decent path to go forward. So I'm not saying that it's all about the negative stuff. It can be positive stuff too. It just depends on whether weeds or nourishing stuff gets planted in the field. But influence does, once it gets established, it does stick.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're saying that, like, well, I think I see what you're saying, but would you agree that then that the like the actual biological and psychological rewards of that type of behavior are so much more motivating than something like looking at the evidence, that's why all of that happens, more than people just look at the evidence?
You mean, do you think that the world is more inclined to believe things that aren't hinged to like empirical reality of that, or I'm not sure if I understand.
I would believe that, honestly.
Well, I think like just I guess you were saying with the social economy that's just kind of like how people have
Yeah, that's
uh,
how it works. And whatever denominations get printed, that's what we hold on to. That's it. That's what my point was. Is that because we didn't have much information, and we were saying, well, the mountain blows up because we haven't thrown 3 babies in it every year, and blah. Then that gets stuck into a culture, and they believe that, wow, it didn't blow up this year because we chucked 3 babies into the hole. You know, I'm saying that once something gets established, then we stick with it. So whatever is established, it's just that empirical evidence hasn't had time to stick yet. But it is
oh, okay.
it is changing because when you think about it, if you go to India and get treated for malaria, or here in the United States and you get treated for malaria, it's the same. Whereas in the ancient days, you would have had to make naha by the sacred fire, and you would have had to jam a feather up your ass over here. None of it would have worked. It was all guesswork and not anything empirically grounded. But we're as we gain evidence, that's starting to get established. But that's a new thing. And it takes a while to happen. So we do have some directional momentum, but we're dragging a lot of traditions. And once they get established, they're deep rooted, and they take a while to they have a radioactive half life, so to speak.
Good point.
Yeah, yeah. On a lot of different traditions and views and sort of things. Yeah, for sure. What do you guys think about like psychedelics?
Don't know much about it.
I know
Okay.
quite a bit about them.
What what do you think as far as for example, there've been a fairly a decent amount of studies that have shown a lot of potential benefits to things like psilocybin mushrooms or
You mean in relation to depression and whatnot? Yeah.
yeah, like certain mental, like anxiety or depression or post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that, and like things that are generally just really troubling for the mind, that like where yeah, like well, that like just where they'll have like a therapeutic uh time, and like be subjected to a dose of whatever, they take a dose of whatever, and then they talk about certain things and stuff, and then they're saying that even months and months after people did that with like mushrooms, for example, that they had like greatly reduced scores for things like depression and anxiety and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I just, from what I understand it, that was being studied a decent amount in the 60s, but then that sort of stopped, and now it's only fairly recently been sort of like restarted as like a field of research. It's just psychedelics in general.
Okay.
So why I guess it seems to me that based on even the little bit that we know, it doesn't seem to be that bad of a like it like in America, it's on like it's like I don't know if it's Schedule 1 or whatever they call it, but it's like a bad crime to be under the influence of like psilocybin mushrooms or something, and it's like a bad crime, but then at the same time, if it could be a lot more helpful to people, and it's not like addictive or anything like that, it's not, you know what I mean, it's just not, I don't see it as very harmful unless do maybe a few ridiculous things, but I mean I see it as much more positive than a lot of people like the government seems to think it is. and even then, it, it's even it seems to be even more helpful and have much less side effects than many things like antidepressants or other like actual prescription medications like that. It just seems to be a lot less harmful in general, but it's still considered like weird and illegal, and I guess I don't really understand.
Well, that's that social economy again. That the decisions that were made and the things that got established predicated on somebody. It's easier to sow fear. It's easier to sow ignorance, and once ignorance gets rooted in, once you have that gold star of ignorance painted on your lens, everything looks like that gold
Yeah.
star. You know, and so that's the reason pot went out. My guess is that. William Randolph Hearst back at that time had a lot of lumber interest because he owned a large quantity of the newspapers, etc., and didn't want that messed with, and hemp would have messed with it. So he villainized marijuana. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but something like that happened. Somebody had a reason to villainize the drug so that because they had a financial interest in it or whatever, and that's how it became illegal. And then once that fear engine started, they needed a new boogeyman, a new boogeyman, a new boogeyman. And so these kids, these hippies, running around in their bell bottoms and they don't love their country, and they burn the flag, and they eat babies, and so let's that's psilocybin, that Schedule 1 drug, like that kind of prejudicial, ignorant.
Okay, so it's basically the same concept that you were outlining before, right? Like where it's just the social economy thing. I got you. I got you.
So they didn't villainize marijuana due to the effects, but only for like financial purposes.
My guess was it was financial purposes, yeah. And now, I think psilocybin and a lot of the ayahuasca and all of that are Schedule 1, I think is what they call it, drugs, as a result of that wave of all drugs are bad. Although drugs is its own negative and its own positive. So I went to the doctor and got these drugs, and they really worked. And don't do drugs. They're both part of
No,
our.
I mean like there are only certain types of drugs. There are medical drugs, and there are just like the drugs such as
Like
marijuana that
recreational
could,
drugs.
yeah,
Yeah.
like those type of drugs are bad for you. But they only just call it drugs. They're not being too much specific about it. That could lead to confusion and stuff.
Yeah, that's sort of a rabbit trail there. I didn't mean to take us off topic on that, but the point being that the reasons that things become illegal and feared and all of that are are not always based on evidence. They're sometimes based on somebody's agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what history would point to for quite a ways back too, for sure.
Yeah, and entheogens have been used historically. Throughout history, cultures used entheogens. They used plants and whatever chemical substances that gave them visions and whatnot,
Yeah.
and it has only been in the last 100 years that we've villainized that. And I don't know why. We don't close the ski slopes because somebody slams into a tree. Yeah, some crap happens, but you got to weigh in the big population. You got to say, is the view worth the climb, or are you getting some greater benefit than the harm that's being caused? So I don't think that our modern world operates like that. Our modern world operates like, here's the ideal, perfect thing that everybody should be, and let's make that as if that's the kind of world we live in, and it's not.
Yeah. What what do you guys think about capitalism, like and materialism and things like that?
Uh, for me, it's quite of a touchy subject because capitalism affects all of us in many ways.
Yeah. What do you mean though? Like an example?
Well, for one thing, I live in poverty, and as one living in poverty, I don't I didn't eat that I don't eat that much. I don't get all the food we need, and so it's hard. And also we don't have that much heat, and so it's hard to live and stuff without it's hard for me because I don't know that much.
So you're kind of saying that in a system that's built to make it easy to live a certain way and really hard to live in a different situation, that it's almost like it's sort of unfair to the people that are living in different situations.
Yes,
Because that's kind of how I like right now in America, the middle class has been shrinking, for a little while now.
it has.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and post a link in the the side chat here in a second, but it's just I think that there's a growing separation between uh, the wealthier citizens and the poorer citizens, but I don't know, it's still probably a pretty small minority on either
Are the
side. But
statistics recent?
I mean, like within the last year, I think I'll give me a second here. It's a Pew poll.
I have a global distribution of wealth thing from Wikipedia. I don't know how accurate it is. I mean, I didn't do anything, but it says bottom 99% have 19% of the, you know, wealth. The top 0.001% have 30% of the wealth. That's a little lopsided. 0.001% is like, 80 people, 60 people, something like that. It's a real small number. The next 0.01% have 19%, and the next 0.1% have 32%. So the 99.9% of the world basically has 19% of the wealth, and the rest of it is less than, basically the next percent is everything else. So that seems like a pretty uneven distribution if I am reading this chart correctly. that would be like the heart saying, well, I pump the blood, so I'm just going to keep it all to myself. Since I'm the blood pumper, I'm the blood pumper. You know, starving the rest of the body because it's the blood pumper, you know? Idiot.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I think it's easy for me to see how.
Laid out.
I think it's easy for me to see how like if you know, wealthy people that are in charge of corporations and like large, you know, interest groups and people that have a lot of power and money, if they are allowed to have, you know, some sort of say, you know, monetarily, like they are in the U.S., like how all of, you know, well, I won't say all, but the majority of politics is driven by money nowadays. Like it's easy for me to see how once people had the opportunity, they would make it easier and easier
Well,
for
there is
them.
Donald Trump, so
Right, right. The billionaire dude that's running for the presidency. Yeah, that's
I
But
think he used to run for president before. I don't actually remember when, but it was a long while ago.
yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't remember hearing about that, but I don't know.
I think he did, but I just don't remember.
Yeah.
At least try to.
Well, what should we move on to now?
Well, just to answer your question there, in 87 and 88, he considered a run. In 2000, he did enter the presidential race as a Reform Party candidate.
That was in 2000.
Yeah. In 2003 and 4, he started hosting the reality show, and he again mulls over the idea of running.
Celebrity Apprentice, right?
Right, exactly. Well, The Apprentice is what it was called, not Celebrity.
Okay, forget. The
Right,
Apprentice.
that was when they jumped the shark, you know, when they were trying to hold on to it at the very end and make squeeze the last, you know, few quarters out of that stupid idea. Anyway, then 2011, he was leading all presidential contenders, including Romney, and now you know what's happening now.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk too much about politics, but it seems to me like it. I don't know. It's just it's hard. I guess it's kind of hard for me to make a clear distinction, but it almost seems like he's just kind of playing to the fearful and the, you know what I mean, like by making these really like it seems like he talks very, very harshly and like he says things that politicians don't normally say. So then I think a lot of people take that to mean that he's just being honest. You know what I mean? Like he's
Oh, the
just,
one about the Mexicans.
yeah, and shit like that.
Where he's
Yeah,
going to build a wall. Where he's going to build a wall.
yeah, or like or like, you know, ban all Muslims from the country and stuff
Oh,
like
that.
that. Those sort of things, I think, to me, it just seems like what he's doing there is from a business perspective, and a close friend of mine pointed this out to me. But from a business perspective, he thought that he was that Trump was doing what he called reaching past what you want in a business situation.
Reaching past.
So instead of like proposing or asking for exactly what you want, you propose or ask for even more, and then when the person that you're talking to says no, 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 you know, a little less than that, you get what you originally were wanting anyway.
Yeah, that's why car dealers say that the manufacturer's suggested retail is a ridiculously high price, so that you can look like you're getting something reasoned by comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think because then, you know, right after my friend made that point to me, he was like, he's not gonna build a freaking wall, you know what I mean? Like, Trump's not gonna build a wall. You know how much money that would cost, and like how ridiculous that would look like on the world stage. What are we gonna, you know, like the Great Wall of America or something? I just, and that, you know, that kind of made sense to me too. I guess it seemed a little far-fetched, but
Well, there's that, but there's a couple of things. You know, I don't know about the individual climate, but I do know that broadly speaking, in the terms of public discourse, the way our media is set up, and the way that public figures are set up, you can't. We have a country, we have a world that needs to be contended with. And if you're doing it appropriately, it is a nuanced, multiple layered problem. But you can't talk about that on in the public forum. You have to make non-nuanced. You have to say, I am hope, I am change, I am the thing that we have been looking for, you know, so everybody can project their own individual ideas onto that simple pinpoint black and white thing. And if you make a nuanced point, they attack the crap out of you for it. You know, in fact, that's what, when you see what's going on in the public discourse, that's what recruiters try to do. They try to get you to say something nuanced, and then they attack you for it. So Donald Trump has just been pretty wise at not saying anything that is very nuanced. He's tapping into people's fears and prejudices and all that crap. And all these other politicians have been playing that game of taking a lot of time to say nothing. And people are tired of that. They want somebody that stands for something and blah. And look, that's how Barack arguably got into office too. And I'm not saying about the character or the policies of any of the politicians. I'm just saying, in terms of strategy, you want to be as ill-defined as possible so that people will project all of their hopes onto you in order to get into office, and then you do what it is that you do.
Like where Obama, like what you were saying, where Obama kind of went, you know, there will be change in this country.
The most transparent, that we are going to be the most but yeah. So all of the rhetoric was vague so that people could wrap hopes around. And once people would wrap a hope around, they will defend that as part of their identity. So even if the person is doing the most egregious things to violate the promise, they will be defended by the very people who projected their hopes onto them, because they don't want to lose that thing that they have an emotional attachment to. It has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah, that's almost similar to how you could, you know, how well, it's pretty similar to how I would look at a lot of religion, actually. Yeah.
Politics and religions are they came from the same cell. They used to be one and the same, and then they split into two, but they're still the same genetic creature.
Yeah, yeah, and as far as how they structure their arguments and what they try to achieve and stuff, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's no different. I mean, politics split, you know, is another cell that divided. It's a cell that divided from religion.
Yep.
A lot of people who are politicians are bound to be religious. That's the thing.
Well, when you have identity politics, where you're saying the other side is awful, they are the sinners, they are the devil, you know, like in the U.S., the politic climate is liberal and conservative. So the liberals think that the conservatives are gun-toting idiots who want to push grandma off the cliff in her wheelchair so that they don't have to, you know, maybe sacrifice having to fart through silk shorts or whatever. And that, you know, like this caricature of these evil people. And then liberals are seen as these bleeding heart people who have no clue how the world actually is, and aren't, you know, blah blah blah. And so they both villainize each other. That sounds to me like religions. That not that those things aren't reality. Neither one of them doesn't appear.
Yeah, but what about the gray area?
You mean the
If
middle? The people in the middle?
if there is one, yeah, the middle, the gray area.
Yeah.
Because all this stuff seems, because all this stuff is like a black and white situation. So I'm saying, what about the gray area of it?
I think the gray area is like the interesting place for conversation, for sure. For me, anyway.
Yeah. What about the gray area? I'm not sure your question.
No, no, I'm
Well,
just saying, what about the middle between the conservatives and the liberals? What about the middle of the Democrats and the Republicans? What about the middle of?
Okay, yeah. So think about this: if you're in the middle of if you're a reasonable person, and then you're in a party, and somebody's bringing a gun to the party, it ruins it for you. If you're a reasoned person, that's
Yeah.
where the middle is. They're in a room full of people who have sucked all of the energy out of the room over their flicking matches at each other in a room full of gasoline. That's where the middle people lie. They don't have a voice because people follow after the invective. They follow after the screaming banshee, the person that's railing back and forth. And once a person has caught the emotional attention of a crowd, the crowd sees everything in black and white. There are no grays. There is only black or white. So the middle just becomes invisible.
Okay, so you're saying in the public sphere anyway, the middle becomes.
Yeah, it's invisible.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. You're supposed to be able to say I am this or I am that, or I'm on this team or that team. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of a do you still beat your wife scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess.
I think our political. Excuse me, Ryan. Would you like which set of logos would you like on your plastic bag of shit? Well, I don't want a plastic bag of shit. Now you don't understand the question. Let me ask you again, because you don't understand the question, Ryan. Which logos? There's these logos and those logos. Which set of logos would you like on your plastic bag of shit? But I don't want a plastic bag of shit. Excuse me, Ryan. You don't understand the question.
It was funny because I was just about to say, well, what if I don't want a plastic bag of shit? Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's, I guess in a sense it makes sense to me that it's just sort of socially how things kind of have been going for a long time. But it's just, I don't know. I guess that sort of dynamic is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, do you want to be eaten by a wolf or a lion? There's your, ultimately that's
What
your
if I don't want to be eaten by a wolf or lion?
You don't understand the question.
No. There's no question to that, and I'm just
So
saying.
I think you can still, like, even though that, for example, like, you you may be in a place like in America where everything is economic,
Yeah.
and like, or everything is limited in that sense. But I think that there are still ways to look at what you want out of life and like try and figure out, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just kind of coasting right now and trying to figure out what direction I want to take my life in, and then I'll move in that direction. But I think that even though it seems like it's really hard to do what you want to do in life, I think if you really give it a decent look, I think that there are a lot of ways to get around problems that seem to be imposed on us, I guess.
Yeah, one of the obvious things to me, to take it back out of the hyperbole, like I was having it in earlier, but and back out into reality. People at the top need the people at the bottom to stand on, but the people at the bottom don't need the people at the top. In other words, the people at the top can't be there without the people at the bottom. but the people at the bottom will be there without the people at the top. So who has the real power? Well, the people do. And I think when we were talking earlier about when you had asked the question about capitalism, well, I didn't weigh in because, but I'm going to weigh in now, and this has to do with all of it. That if it doesn't matter what the system is, whether it's capitalism, socialism, communism, gluism, it doesn't matter what it is, and there's no such thing as as gluism. There may be tomorrow, but I don't think there is today. Anyway, my point is the system itself doesn't matter. The values of the people that are pulling the levers within the system is the most important thing. And so if we can cultivate this idea that having each other's backs is the best way for us all to get into a better place, then we're going to reap the rewards that are built on those fruitful relationships that form out of that value system. And we have to recognize that that's where our bread is buttered. And that's why I talk about the things that I do, because that is what I want people to know. Because I want to live in that world. I want to live in a world where I don't have to worry, no matter where I go, whether or not the people around are going to have my back. Now, do I recognize that I don't live in that world? Yes. Do I recognize that probably in my lifetime I won't see that world? Yes. But I do know that we can move in that direction. And that it's pretty simple. That reality doesn't, reality says you can do this and you'll have a better experience of life, and you can do that and you'll have a worse experience of life. And here's how you have a worse experience. You rape the environment so that it can no longer nourish you. You cut off the breasts that feed you the milk, and eventually you're going to be bummed. Okay, that's what it says. And this is what we all have to know, and we have to know that, and we have to value that proposition that, hey, we're going to have each other's backs and we're going to be all right. And look, we might all get hit by an asteroid next week, I don't know, but at least we'll have done the best we could in the interim. That's where our bread is buttered. That's what we have to know, and that's what it really is going to take. So whatever you do, my suggestion is know that you cultivate your behaviors so that they grow in fertile soil. Find people that will have your back and have theirs. Find people that are capable of that. Don't find people that are just going to suck all your energy and chuck you out when you're all spent, and then wonder who's going to make them a sandwich. That's what I'd suggest. Find people that have your interest and also have theirs.
Yeah, so that sort of behavior just becomes the norm then, right?
And then people at the top would obviously make good decisions because they know that that's where their bread is buttered. That's the world their children and grandchildren and all of that are going to live in.
Yeah. I mean, it may. I would definitely agree that would be a direction that we need to go in, I think, as a global community. But what I really struggle with is where to start as far as going in that direction, like right now,
Well, you can only stretch out in your field of influence. If you hold a door for somebody, that's communicating it. So it doesn't even cost money.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would say, yeah, like holding a door and those basic things. That's just, I guess that's sort of like how I behave, in general. I guess I would say I'm a pretty courteous person like that. But so you're just saying anywhere from like basic things like that all the way to sort of talking about it to people whenever they are interested.
Making policies and all of that. Yeah, all the way up and down the chain. There's no different. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the same way that any other idea would really be spread, right?
Well, we live in a bottom-up world, not a top-down one, really. I mean, while we have this illusion of top-down, it is really bottom-up. Yeah, if you could, in other words, in the United States, you have free-range chickens that build their own fence.
What do you mean they build their own fence?
Well, I mean, you have people that are doing things that are very unsatisfying in terms of life. It's
What
almost
kind of people?
Oh wait. Oh, I think I get what you're saying. Where even in America, where we have a lot of freedoms, you still have people that are structuring their lives in ways that are like harmful to them, but then a lot of people just keep doing it anyway, even though they
well,
don't
I would
have
say
to.
unsatisfying. Okay, so think about all right. So project yourself into your deathbed. All right, and imagine that you have now 6 months to live, but you're just all you can do is lay there and reflect on back on your life. Are you going to say, "Wow, I'm really glad I spent more time at work to get that Ferrari"? Or are you going to say, you know what? When I took my son, my daughter out to learn fishing or to ballet or whatever the case may be, whatever those relationship elements you were, are they going to be the things that were most valuable? Are they going to be the things that cultivated meaning in your life? And that, the answer in most cases is yeah. It's the relationships that you're going to count as the most measurable. And if you have any regrets at all, it will be that you sacrificed the opportunity to cultivate those on the altar of these mundane things of moving dirt hither and yon and collecting stuff to become the curator of your own museum. All of that inefficiency in life that sort of got in the way of a relationship. And I'm not saying don't do that at all. I'm saying we overtake our lives with that. So it's not like it's the same as anything else. Too much water will drown you. Not enough, you'll die of thirst. So yeah, you've got to tend to that stuff. But there's a certain point at which it can go the same way. Somebody who can drink versus a drunk. When you drink, you own the drink. But when you're a drunk, the drink owns you. That people are owned by their houses. They don't own their houses in a lot of cases. And so that's what I'm talking about, is that we need to cultivate meaningful relationships and meaningful relationships in lots of different ways. So those are the things that are really valuable. It's not built on how many coconuts or dollars or whatever you have in your silo.
Okay. So I have to go now. See you guys later.
All right, Tuna. Good
All
to
right,
meet
see you,
Meaningful
man.
conversation.
Yeah, good talking to you, man. Come back
All right.
anytime. Well, all right, Joe. I might call it a night too. Actually, I suppose.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably a good break point. I really appreciate you stepping out and firing this thing up and throwing your line in the water.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, yeah. I hope you do it again.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it going.
Good
Not
deal.
not entirely sure how frequently yet, but yeah, I'll keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. I would say just if well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you take this off air first?
Right. I'll yeah.
Stop
All right.
broadcast. I think there's a button down below for you somewhere.
Yep.
I mean,
All right.